Indeed, Sinister, the bugs have taken over. Welcome everyone to today's stream, where we're going to be working some more on Streamline, and then possibly going into some more overlay stuff. So, if I bring us straight over, I'm going to launch Blender and show you what I have been working on in Blender for the stream overlay for later. So, what we have in Blender now, if I add the interior, the basic mesh for the exterior of our ship is done. Let's go to layout mode so we can see it a bit better. So we have our exterior sort of done for the main mesh. So this is looking pretty good. There's obviously still a lot of stuff to do. I want to add details and such to the exterior, and at the back of here there's meant to be a propeller going round, because you always need a propeller in a spaceship. But the basic shape is done. But what I've been working on the past few days, which I worked on Tuesday and on Wednesday's stream and a bit last night, is if I had that, but bring back the interior, we have our interior basically set up. So what we'll probably do later is flesh out a bit more furniture in here, because I want to create some controls, a chair, and like a hollow table here, which is just going to be like a table that sort of I'll be able to project like holograms up from. So I'll be building that stuff in. Over here we have a door that will eventually lead to a lift that goes downstairs, and a door that leads to a captain's quarters. At the back we have our engineering section, and then over here we have the conference room, which you notice is quite a bit longer. And if I bring the ship exterior back in, you know it sticks out. It's meant to finish up there, but I've had to do some trickery for the cameras, and these cameras are just placed here for just test purposes, because I'm going to be using cameras in Unity when I get to that. But if I activate this camera and go in, and in fact let's go to rendered view and bring on all the lights. So you see we have a view here where I can move the character, like move my bot around, go through the door if I need to. But I'm also going to have this view, which focuses purely on the screen, and right, go back a bit more. So it's going to be a bit like Gwillim's stream, where it focuses in. So that's the intent, where you're going to be able to, I'm going to be able to switch between these cameras. So when I'm on here, I'll be able to move side to side, but here it will zoom out and I'll be able to see more of the screen. Now we'll see how exactly that works. I may have it where this doesn't actually show when you're in this view, because I'm going to be green screening it initially. But yeah. Oh yeah, Box Pilkey is going to be, the Pilkey box is going to be the initial variation of the bot. I might make them a bit thinner and remove the side, but This is going to be the initial character when I get this working, and depends on how much we get done today, because we only have to do the... We've got the walls done, we've got the windows upstairs done, we've got the ceilings done. I haven't shown those. If I zoom out, I can stick on. So we have ceilings for every room, which I have done separately so that they can be turned on and off as needed. But yeah, this is what we're going to be doing later on, just building out the furniture here, and then potentially seeing about bringing this all into Unity and playing around there. So we'll see how that goes. But first, I want to do some work on Streamline. So let's quit Blender and take a look at Streamline. Now I have just realised, supposed to go through and work out exactly what I want to do on Streamline today. I've been a bit too focused on the whole Blender stream side of things. So I think what we need to do... I think the next step is going to be persistence. We need to actually start saving all this stuff to disk. So let's... In fact, let's open up our bug tracking. Go to Streamline and the issues. So we're not going to bother with smart palettes. Let's add a few more things. So we need to do... well, first of all, we can do that, and I believe... So that'd be... and option shift 4. Okay, so that's it. So we want to add some more tickets. So the first one we want to do is implement persistence data model. So I'll get data model. This. That's actually we want that to do. Priority high. Assign to me. And what levels do we have? Labels is just going to be feature. And when we get persistence working, then we want to start working. I think I'd like to get basic playback working. So add basic playback controls, and this is going to be playback. Add controls to play, pause, go to next track, go to previous track, and adjust volume to toolbar. And then we want to add playback audio. Add playback controller, that playback music from a playlist. Okay, so that hopefully is what we can try and get through today, at least most of that. Try to get persistence working, which hopefully shouldn't be too hard. And we only need to get it working in a basic manner. I may end up changing how persistence works later on, because what I'm basically going to do, my iTunes library is... How big is the iTunes library? 8,755 items. So what I'm probably going to do is do some performance tests where I throw in a ridiculous number of items. Let's say, I mean, at the very least I want to make sure it can handle 10,000 items. I doubt people are going to bring that many tracks in, but if the idea is that someone can potentially use this as a music player, then I need support a lot. So 10,000 will be good, but when I say ridiculous, it's probably getting up to like 100,000, see if it can handle that. And that, I think, what I'm going to be going for in terms of persistence initially is probably not going to work, so. Oh, thanks for the follow, Inesmutable. Welcome to the stream and hope you're enjoying it. So yes, let's take a look at some persistence. So M3 data is basically what I've built to handle everything in memory, and it doesn't actually do any persistence. I believe model object may. Yeah, so you can get a plist representation, update from a plist representation, but there isn't really any sort of persistence going on. Now, what this allows us to do is very easily tweak things so that we can write to JSON, which is what actually happens in Coppice. So if I bring up Coppice, so we have M3 data over here, but then we have all this stuff here, model reader, model writer. And what this does is give it a model controller and a version, and then we just give it a file wrapper, which is what we get from document. From here it can read in data plist, can get the content, fill all this stuff out. So for example, goes through, we get actually we're not storing as JSON, we're storing as property lists. But we're going to get the plist, we're going to go here and then create and delete objects. It basically goes through and either adds or removes any objects that we need. Now we won't need to go quite as far as this because we're not going to have document stuff, we're not going to be reverting and stuff like that. So, yeah, so this just creates, and then we go into update, and then we go through, and then we actually, what do we call it? Object with ID, update from plist representation. Now, part of the reason we do it this way is we want to make sure that all of the objects exist before we start populating them and updating them and so on. So what we're probably going to do is do a similar thing. I may actually just use plist serialization for now. Now, the problem will come when you get to those large numbers, and that's where I'm probably going to shift over to using something like what would it be? SQLite, because if you're changing one property on the track, to save that to disk with plist serialization, you're basically having to create the entire plist and write the entire thing to disk. Which means that if you have 10,000, right, in fact, let's see, how big is my music library? Right, go into to music. It's this music library. 139.4 megabytes. Now that maybe contain additional stuff. Is it a... No, it's not. Oh, it is a package. So the bulk of that is the iTunes Genius database, which I don't actually really use for anything, I don't think. But even still, the library itself is 5.7 megabytes, which means that if you change one character, or like let's say you've made a spelling mistake in a track name, and it's just one character is missing, and you add that one character, I have to write out, with a library that big, 5.7 megabytes for that one character. If I'm using something like SQLite, it's generally a lot more efficient and smarter about how it writes out. You can be smarter with stuff like this, but using a database just makes it faster. It's faster to load, faster to read. You can do things such as faulting and so on, where you don't actually load the properties until they are needed. So that's something that we'll probably look into in the future. But for now, for what I need, a pity list should be fine. So, with this in mind, what we need, we have our Streamline model controller. What we're going to add is a model reader and a model writer. And these are going to be things that we can create as needed. So model reader. I should need to be an NS object. No, I don't think it does. So model reader is just going to take a model controller. And is basically going to read into it. So all we need to do is create our model controller. Brain has still not fully engaged, so I'm typing kind of incorrectly at the moment, so we'll see how things go. Oh! That's a fair point. Some setup news. The last component of my new office setup, or at least the desk part of it, should be coming hopefully next week. But it's coming via FedEx, and the last time that happened it took like 2 weeks, longer than it should have done. But I'm getting a second monitor arm, so the monitor to my right is currently on its stand, but the stand doesn't go up high enough, and it's a fairly big thing on the desk, so I'm pretty happy with the monitor arm I've got for my main monitor, so I'm getting another one, and hopefully get that on, and then my desk setup will be mostly done. I think I may get a new lamp at some point that actually works properly, but yeah, I'm pretty much done, and then it's just a case of getting stuff up on the wall. I need to take the exploded Mac Mini guts. There's a shop downtown that does photographs and stuff, but they also do framing. And trying to get all this stuff mounted and find a frame that is big enough, because it's about an A2 piece of foam board that I've got at the moment with everything laid out. And getting a frame that's deep enough and so on so that I can hang it up has been a bit of a pain. But I popped in, and they do custom frames, and they basically said, oh, we can properly mount it, so nothing's going to like fall off, and build the frame for you in whatever style you want. And it's just like, oh, well, that'll work. I think they were quoting me somewhere between 100 and 150 pounds, which, if it was just for the frame, then okay, that's a bit expensive, but it's a frame that they can do to the correct size, the correct depth, and they will mount all the pieces inside of it. I basically just need to take it down in a box with where I roughly want things to go, and they can make sure it's all mounted and it won't fall off and do a proper job. So for that, I think that's a pretty good price. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, I would have actually gone down this morning to do that. I would have phoned up and seen if I could have gone down this morning, because I'm not doing contract work today, hence the streaming. Unfortunately, it's a bank holiday, because the Queen has been on the throne for 70 years, and therefore we've got bank holidays. So most places are either short or doing reduced hours, so I'm going to have to do that maybe in 2 weeks' time. Actually, I can't do it. Can I do it in 2 weeks' time? Possibly. I will have to work out. But yes, I should be getting this monitor arm hopefully on Tuesday. Or it's currently saying Tuesday. Tuesday's when I'm also hopefully going to get my copy of Girl and Glim, if it actually ships on time. I've had zero notification or anything about that since I purchased, pre-ordered it back in February, March, sometime around then, I think. So we'll see. Oh yeah, I've just realised I haven't put any tasks in. So we are doing systems, we're doing playback controls, we're doing playback, and then we're going to do game overlay. Right. Well, we're going to create it, and then we just want a function which is going to I mean, we could technically make this static, but you know what? That's it. Read URL into model controller. Now the right we are probably going to keep around. Do we need to? No, I don't think we need to, so we can do class model writer static right to URL right model controller the URL. With people been getting the copies early, yeah, that is stuff that happens. I've had that a few times with various things. I'm trying to think what things I've got before release day. I mean, one thing I technically managed to pick up before release day was a bunch of Warhammer stuff. I'd ordered a bunch of stuff and it had come in, like, normally the releases are on Saturday, but they come into the shops on like Wednesday or Thursday, so they can ship them out for Saturday. But my local store had them in, so I was able to pop in and pick them up early. I think I was actually just in that area on like a day early, stuff like that, so you can pick it up. So some shops just, when they get it in, they send it out. It's like not a big deal unless there's some like major embargo or something, then they just, it's fine. Sometimes they aren't technically meant to give them out, but they do anyway. So, but I mean, it's just stuff that happens, and it's I don't think it's like anyone's really spoiling anything, so we'll see how things go when it arrives, because I'm excited to get it and actually read through this story. Right, so we want to write URL. So the URL we're passing in is Streamline directory. So what I think I'm going to do the writing in theory should be fairly easy. Because we don't actually need to manage the yeah, it's a bit more complex in Coppice because you can have a lot of data associated, but this is all effectively going to be metadata, and we've got our track file manager that is actually going to do this. In fact, model read and model write should probably be in file management. So what we probably want to do is create plist, be string of any. I'm going to have tracks, playlist, playlist, tracks, stream, team. Aww. Now, what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm actually going to have 3 different files. I think I'm going to have a tracks file, a playlist file, and the streams file. Now, the reason for that, you're never going to have a huge number of playlists or a huge number of streams where... do we? No, let's stick it all in one file for now. We can fix it all later. This is all on my machine anyway, so if I have to delete all this and redo it, then that's fine. This only needs to be set in stone when I send this out to users, and even then I can do migrations and stuff. So what we want to do is model controller dot tracks collection the all dot map plist representation. Placed track collection dot all dot map plist representation. And you can see how easy this setup makes it to actually store these, because all we want to do is get the representations of these. And with our playlist, we can then let data equals try property list serialization. So from our playlist, we're going to make it XML for now. Are the right option? There are none. Okay. But binary plist are technically faster to read and write, but XML is a lot easier for debugging purposes. And then all we want to do is plist data right to URL. And then for reading, it's a bit more complex, because what we want to do is let plist data equals actually data content. Oh no, it is a thought it was a optional return, but I guess it's not. That actually makes things better. So let plist data equals try data contents of URL. Let plist, which should be actually don't want that, equals try property list serialization. Property list from plist data, and we don't care about the format. What we want, that there. Let's create an error. So our errors are going to be error case valid plist. Now we can just do throw errors.invalid plist type. So easy, so simple. In fact, we should be able to do this as an array of string any, because peerless representation returns string any. Those are arrays, so we should get those back. So case missing collection. So we're going to do plist tracks equals plist plist playlists equals plist playlists. Else throw missing collection. There we go. So what is everyone up to today? Have you got anything exciting going on or any plans for the weekend? Right. You're on break. Time for projects. What projects are you going to be working on, Sinister? You want to learn to animate in Blender properly? I would like to learn that too. I can do the absolute basics of set keyframe, go here, set keyframe, go here, but that's something that I want to learn. But I think to begin with, I need to learn how to properly model. I've got to the point where in some cases I'm like grabbing a vertex and extruding a vertex out and building things, like building parts of things up vertex by vertex to get the shape that I want, and I'm pretty certain there are faster ways of doing that. So, but I'm getting there. I'm slowly learning all the hotkeys and everything, and it's just you learn bit by bit and you do things the slow and clunky way and then find that there is a much quicker way to do things later on. Don't know why I'm changing the model right. It's the model reader that I want. Right, so I need to do you want to create the objects, and then want to update them. So we want not in here. Funk. I'm going to use a little bit of generics here. So create objects, I'm going to do T collectible model object of type, and the type is going to be T.type using plist data, which is going to be string of any. We're also going to do update objects T collectible model object of type T.type using plist data. Now again, the reason we separate these out, and we actually need these to be arrays, the reason we separate these out is we want to make sure everything is created before we update it, because then anything that expects a certain object to be there will actually find that object there, even if its properties aren't yet set. So what we do here is let collection equals self.model. No. Aha! That is why we do it this way, because then we don't have to keep passing that around. Okay, yeah, we're going to not make these static then. Let URL. Now, model controller is model controller, and it. Then we can do self.modelController.collection for, and then we can pass in our type. And then what we're going to do, collection disable undo. Oh, am I storing those slightly differently? Interesting. I've done things differently in Coppice. So I create a model playlist thing that takes the plist in, and then it tries to map them Okay, so I may end up doing that then. So if I create a new file, model plist, and I'm going to just copy paste this, but we don't need all this stuff. So we want tracks, playlist, tracks, streams, and scenes. So do you have any specific things that you're looking to animate at some point, Sinister? Like any projects that you're wanting to focus on for animating? Because for me it will be animating the Pilkybot ones that is actually a bot rather than a box. I also at some point need to work out exactly how I'm going to control the bot in game, because using the keyboard and the mouse would work, but gets in the way of doing other stuff. And the problem is, I ideally want something where I can have the control input going into the game even when I'm in another app. But we'll see. I mean, one thing I have actually considered, and I don't know if this is simply a case of, oh, it looks cool, so I won't want to try out, whether a tour box could potentially work. Because you have like your D-pad and you have stuff like that, but it may be a bit too much and not quite what I want. Plus, how expensive are they? Only like a few hundred. $169, so because the thing here is this would be able to sit on the desk as a completely separate input device and have various controls for doing things. I think initially I am just going to use a PlayStation controller. Now the problem there is working out where I would plug the PlayStation controller in. I suppose I could use Bluetooth for it. That would probably make stuff a lot easier, because even with a tour box it's a question of where do I plug it in, because at the moment I have 6 Thunderbolt ports on my Mac Studio, and each one is full. Because 3 of them are going to monitors, 1's going to hard disk, and at the front I've got one that is currently charging my iPad, and another that is powering my Stream Deck. Because at the back my USB-A ports are taken up by my camera and my mouse and keyboard. I mean, one thing I could do, there is an HDMI port, so I could actually swap one of my monitors over to HDMI, and that would free up a port, but we'll see. I'll probably have a play around it at some point, but I mean, what exactly, what I want now is what the actual controls are. Like, I just want a list there we are. See it in detail. Where's the detail? See it in detail, there's nothing to click. There's no detail. Got tail shot, up, down, left, right. Side. You've got a scroll wheel, you've got a dial. It's not really. If it had a joystick on it, then potentially it could be great. So, but yeah, I think to begin with, I'm just gonna have to try a PlayStation PS4 controller because, well, I have PS4 controllers lying around. May even have a PS3 controller lying around somewhere. But try those to begin with, because there's plenty of buttons on those for doing everything I need. But the problem is needing to pick it up to actually move around. So maybe I also need some like short hotkeys just for basic moving around when I'm zoomed in here, if I'm wanting to move left and right and so on. And then I can pick it up if I pick the control up if I want to actually go somewhere else. But like I say, we'll see how things go. It's got to be fun to work on. So it should be, you can simplify some stuff there. And what we're going to do is playlist tracks and do that. Oh, there's some interesting rumors going about iPad OS for iPad OS 16, where Apple may have finally given up on trying to reinvent how multitasking works and instead gone, you know what, we invented a very good way to multitask back in the 80s. In fact, it's such a good way to multitask that one of our main competitors named their entire operating system around it. And it's these revolutionary concepts called Windows. And we're going to make Windows on iPad and let you run multiple apps at the same time, side by side, and size them however you want. And thus all the Mac users said, took you long enough. It is kind of funny that pretty much anyone who's really used the iPad for anything beyond basic stuff and wants to use it for multitasking, it's just felt like, just make it work like the Mac, please. Like, you have all the weird stuff initially where you can just sort of drag stuff off, but the sort of hidden gestures and they don't work right, and then certain apps had their own sort of internal multitasking that they had to redo, and then you have the thing now where you've got this annoying menu at the top where you can say, oh, I want this to be full screen, a split, or be in the sidebar, but the problem is that then gets in the way of other UI controls in apps, and it's just so much easier if you just say, make this full screen, I'll make it windowed, and you solve all the problems then, because everyone just has it full screen, and if you want to multitask, you can make it windowed, or you can make it full screen and split, and it's just, the Macs solved this. Like, you solved this long ago. And in the whole split screen thing, you solved that on the Mac as well. And it's just, the solution's been there. So thankfully they are going to hopefully solve it. That's what the rumors say. Because I mean, I don't know why they've tried to reinvent it. I think maybe a case of, oh, there could be a better way of doing this or a simpler way of doing this. But the problem is how multitasking works on the desktop, like how it works on the Mac, how it works on Windows, how it works on Linux. It is natural. Now, the window management, yes, that is a complexity. Like, I have, on one monitor, I have OBS open, I have RealTube open, I have Safari open with some Twitch stuff. On here, I just have Xcode. But on another screen, I have Xcode, some Finder windows, Linear, a bunch of stuff on the outliner, I have Tower. So I have Well, I have iTunes, well, music open. I have, what else do I have open? Sublime terminal windows hidden under here. So I have lots of stuff open and all over the place. But the thing is, the fundamentals are simple. You have a window, you can move it around, you can close it, you can minimize it, you can make it full screen. If I want it to work like the iPad, I can make a Mac work like the iPad. I can put my apps into full screen. I can put my apps full screen but split screen. And it works fine. But I have the window mode for when I want things to be smaller, when I want to position things exactly how I want, when I want things to be overlapping other stuff. And I don't need this whole, oh, you have full screen, but then you have side by side, but then you have slide over, but the slide over can move around and then you can switch between them, and it's just full screen or not. That's all you need. And it's, yeah, it just makes stuff a lot easier. Now, the other thing that hopefully will appear as part of this window mode is a menu bar. And again, this is something that I think Apple has been trying to hide, because the menu bar on the face of it feels like, oh, this is immensely, like, this is just adding complexity that doesn't need to be there. And yes, menu bars show just how truly complex certain applications can get. Like if I just, wrong thing, if I hide the sidebar, so Xcode, you've got about, preferences, and a bunch of stuff here. Xcode server stuff. File, new, open, close, save, packages, workspace settings, bunch of edit stuff. Then you get into all navigators, debugging, inspectors, loads of options for finding, navigating around. Look at all these options for navigating, and the editor, you can deal with selection and the structure and code folding and font size and themes, and then you get to products where you're getting building and build for different actions and localizations and schemes and Xcode Cloud and testing. And for debugging, you've got location simulation, you've got view debugging, you can have attaching to processes, setting up all your breakpoints, and then you've got source control, which there are an entire source control apps, but you've got a menu for it here. And it's like, oh, there's a lot of complexity here. But do you want to know what a menu bar is great at? Oh, I can see pretty much what the app can do. It's like, what can the app do? Well, I can navigate, I've got editors, I've got products, debug, source control. Oh, well that's great. So if I want to do something, I can just look through here. Or even better, I can search. So you go up here and you search, and let's say I want to know how do I, something to do with breakpoints. Let's say I want to set breakpoint. Well, you get all your help thing, but or maybe it's not said, maybe it's add or create. There we are, we found it, create breakpoints, and it will actually show it up here. So when you have very basic apps, then great. The iPad way works, but when you start getting more advanced, the reason the Mac allows Pro apps far better than the iPad is that the Mac is a lot more discoverable. Windows allow you to manage things a lot better. They have complexity arising out of them because you can multitask a lot and have a lot of apps open. But that complexity is basically emergent from a simple system of you have a window and you can resize that window, you can move that window, close, minimize, full screen. It's fairly simple what you can do with a window. It's a simple concept, something that you can teach fairly easily, and there's nothing hidden. If you want to perform the actions, they're up here. If you want to resize, you go to the edge. If you want to move it, you just click and drag. They're fairly simple. Menu bars, it's fairly simple. You have a list of options, and those options can have lists of options, which in turn can have lists of options. You basically just drill down and find what you need, and you can select it. But the emergent behavior is, by making all this more discoverable, you can actually make more complex apps that do more. So therefore it seems complex because you've got all this stuff, but it's actually simpler than the iOS, where all that stuff's hidden and you have to build all sorts of additional onboarding and help stuff that you wouldn't need. Which is ironic because the help system is better, because macOS has a built-in help menu and a built-in help viewer and stuff like that for actually searching through help. And then you get things such as like all the icons on iOS, and how do you work out how something works? Well, you've got to try it. Or people have to implement custom things. What about on the Mac? Oh look, I just hovered over and showed a tooltip. Now you can't really do tooltips the same way on iOS, but again, it's like people are asking, why is the iPad seemingly crippled compared to the Mac? And especially in terms of Pro stuff, because people have been wanting, I want Xcode for the iPad, I want Final Cut Pro for the iPad. And the problem is it's crippled. There are some parts of the OS, but it's crippled because Apple has been trying to reinvent the wheel and trying to simplify the wrong things. They've tried to simplify certain aspects, but in doing so, made things more complex for more complex things. If you're using the iPad as a one app at a time thing, it's great. They've simplified that. But the minute you need more than one app at once, which if you're doing anything non-trivial you need, then it becomes far more complex. And I think Apple just needs to accept with the iPad, people want this to be more complex. They want it to be more powerful. They've stuck an M1 chip in not only the Pro but the iPad Air. It has the same processing capabilities, thermals, like if you take thermals into account, probably a bit less, but similar, if not the same, as a MacBook Air or a Mac Mini or a 13-inch MacBook Pro. But they're still treating it like an iPhone. So I think if these changes are true and they start making it act more like its own thing and be closer to the Mac, then it's great. Because I mean, I use my iPad with my Mac all the time. I have Universal Control set up, and Universal Control is probably the most recent of Apple's sort of magic features, where when Apple really does nail something, they nail it so well. But there are times that they don't. But Universal Control is one of those things. If I just move my mouse cursor over and I am on my iPad, and I move my mouse cursor over and I'm back on my Mac, and that is, I know stuff like this has happened before, but it literally just works. And it is pretty fantastic. And it's just such a simple thing. But the thing is, it really ties the iPad and the Mac together. I can copy paste on. And I can do things, for example, when I get round to doing textures and stuff, I probably do some of those in Photoshop, but for a lot of it, I may want to do it in stuff like Procreate. When I was actually designing the views of the spaceship in Affinity, it's actually nicer drawing on the iPad with the Apple Pencil to place things down. But certain other things are faster to do on the Mac. So what I can do is I can use iCloud and have the document in iCloud, and I can switch over to my iPad and do some things on there, and then save and bring it over to the Mac and do some stuff on there, and utilizing both to their key advantages. So I think that is hopefully the direction Apple wants to go, because the iPad is the Apple device I use the most, but I don't think you'll find a single iPad user who uses it for more than just, it's for browsing the internet and watching videos. You won't find anyone who uses the iPad for more than that who doesn't agree that it's largely been wasted in terms of its potential. I would love to see the iPad get something like a Final Cut Pro, or get something like an Xcode. I mean, you have Swift Playgrounds, but that's not quite the same. But it requires Apple giving up on the iPad as a big iPhone, which is great for the simple aspect, but for the more complex aspect, it needs to be more like a Mac, because the Mac isn't just the way it is because of inertia. It's the way it is because it works really well for advanced workflows. So hopefully we'll see Apple improve things, but who knows? We will find out on Monday. Monday, always the most enjoyable time of the year, the WWDC keynote and the State of the Union, because that is when every developer in the Apple ecosystem finds out just how screwed they are for the next 4 months. Right. Oh, we're releasing a new version of macOS. Yay! It's called macOS 11. Yay! And we've completely redesigned all the UI. Oh. Well, I guess we're dropping everything and redesigning our app UIs. Right, where are we? You love to use an iPad as a primary device, but don't feel like the workflow. Yeah, it isn't that, and the thing is, with the iPad, for me, I think the magic aspect of the iPad, kind of ironic, given Steve Jobs said that if you had a stylus, you've basically lost when it came to a phone. When it comes to the iPad, the Apple Pencil is fantastic. Like, I use the iPad a lot, but the Apple Pencil is the first time anything on the iPad has really felt like it is better than the Mac. Like, I use the iPad to browse the web, but I do that because it's convenient when I'm not at my Mac. I use it to browse Twitter because that allows me to put the iPad elsewhere when I need to focus. I use it to browse, like, play a few little games, but that's because, well, iOS is always going to be better than the Mac at gaming, unless Apple actually does go through and buy EA, but that's a whole different kettle of fish. For watching videos, I do it because I can do it in a comfortable place, but none of those things are better than the Mac. It's just more convenient, and if I had a laptop that I did all those things on, it would be just the same. But Procreate, Linear, I found Affinity Designer, all these things where I get to use the Apple Pencil, it's so much better. Like, drawing on the iPad is infinitely better than drawing on the Mac. Like, if I had like a Cintiq, one of the ones with like a screen and stuff in, maybe it would be better on the Mac, but the iPad is immensely portable, immensely powerful, and it's its own thing. So it doesn't require me to be sat at the Mac. I can go anywhere with it and draw and sketch and so on. And it's just, that's the only real advantage the iPad has, and it feels like it should have more. Let's see, we don't want settings and version. Right, let's see. Want a missing ID. President of Apple. There are many, many things I would change at Apple. I mean, most users, they may get like frustrated at Apple, but they have no idea the frustration that a developer has with Apple. It's like, you've built some of the best APIs and one of the most enjoyable platforms to do all this stuff on, but then you just treat us poorly. And it all seems to come down to a view that Apple has, a very toxic view, that it's almost like they feel we owe them. And to some degree, we do. We owe them for building the platform and building the devices on which we can actually build our software. But Apple owes us, because if we didn't build software for their platforms would die. The Mac nearly died in the 90s because developers were abandoning it. The reason Android and iOS succeeded, but Palm OS and Windows OS and all these, like BlackBerry and all these other things, failed, is apps. Android and iOS have apps, so we make the products as successful as they are, but the products need to exist for us to be able to make them successful. And Apple doesn't see it that way. And if they did, they'd realise it's a symbiotic relationship. We make them money, they make us money. And if they saw it like that, then it would probably be a lot healthier relationship and all parties would probably make more money, which sounds ridiculous because it's Apple who has more money than God, but they would it would just make things a lot better and make things a lot happier in general and help people make better stuff. But yeah, we'll see if Apple changes, because if Apple doesn't change, Apple is going to have to change. Like Apple is going to change. The question is Apple going to change because Apple changes, or is Apple going to change because governments make them change? And it's always better for everyone if you change because you want to change and you generally do make the change and believe in the change, because then there are less laws in place that need to handle this stuff that you need to comply with, which if laws get written and the laws are written poorly, then that restricts stuff. If they're written well, then fine, but it gives you more flexibility, but it means that you're doing this because you want to do this, not dragging your feet and just following the letter of the law because you have to. Take accessibility for example. Apple does accessibility because they believe in it and they do a lot of work on it. And their stuff is great for accessibility. They go above and beyond what the law requires. But other companies just drag their feet and just do the basic minimum of what the law requires. So Apple can do this stuff when they care. Unfortunately, when it's something that makes them a lot of money. Anyway, let's get back to this. So we've got property list serialization. We'll create our property list, and what we want to create is if I can type correctly, model plist equals model plist with plist. Right. Got all that. We've got the model plist. So where have I gone and put Coppice? I need to check something. Model reader. It's that text. This. Hi Snowtwig, thanks for the raid. How are you doing today? How was your stream? What did you get up to? Okay, let's see, we want to disable plist. I want to self dot create objects of type track dot self model plist dot tracks. You did a bit of modeling. How's the coding? The coding is going reasonably well, though we took a bit of a break from the coding to do some ranting instead. Putting in my starting my campaign for President of Apple. Yes, this is Streamline Snowtwig. I'm currently working on persistence, so I'm making sure all of the stuff actually saves to disk. So we want to create all the objects of type. And then we want to update objects of type. So when we are doing this, we want to get our IDs. Actually, I just want to add all these. So for item in plist, well, for ID in plist data dot keys, collection.new object, and we're going to do $0.id equals ID. So that is making sure that our IDs are set. So we disable undos because you don't want to undo reloading, and we go through all of our model IDs and we create objects in the collection with those IDs. And then what we're going to do here is again get our collection. Type. Again, we want to disable undo here, and then for ID, and we're going to get the plist item plist. I'm going to grab that item collection dot object with ID else return. Actually, this needs to be a try, because this is going to be a try, and we're going to try item.update from plist representation, and then we're going to pass the plist item in. Plist data. Why are you complaining? Because that is not a throws. Therefore, all these need to become a try. God, file manager dot share. File manager default dot file exists at path url dot path. Else return, because we don't want to read if there's nothing there. Right. So the final things we want to do So saving. Now, normally for saving, this would all be handled by the document side of things and work on the undo. But what we're going to have to do is, do want to look at the undo manager. Where is it, the checkpoint notification? I'm gonna grab some food. Okay, see, when you get back, I'm probably gonna be streaming for quite a while today, so. Right. So how do I want to save it to it? I probably want to look at the undo manager, because that's going to determine are there any changes. So you got can undo, can redo. Is there a count or look at the action? No. Okay, so what we need to do Right, so what we need to do is actually do some observation. So if I add subscribers and I want to do manager did close notification and case, undo manager do notification. I need to port combine, and what we are going to do, self.subscribers, do manager, the close group notification equals notification center dot default dot publisher for manager. close group, and then I'm going to do the same for did undo. If we do this, and we build and run. Right, so it did close group. So if I add a playlist, so that did close group, that did close group, did close group. If I undo, so we need to know whether the group change, the undo, an undo happened or a redo happened. If those happened, and you can undo, then we want to save. Or we want to schedule a save. So I want me as well. So if you make a change, or you undo or you redo, then you want to save. So we'll do here, save dot save subscribers. What we're also going to do here is disable, do that to be down here. Delete that. All of these. Gonna shift up. Okay, so we set up our save subscribers and we want to save. So what we're going to add is a private var once save work item, which is going to be a dispatch work item. So this is going to be once save work item cancel, and once save work item equals nil. And then we want guard of dot won't save true. Let's check. So if it gets set to false, then we just want to cancel it and get rid. Well, if it isn't, then we want our work item to have it on save. It can be a dispatch work item. I want dispatch queue.main dot async after and do dot now plus, let's do 5 seconds. Well, there's going to be a 5-second delay of nothing changing before we actually save. Execute work item. I'm going to print save changes. So we'll see if this works. So nothing appears down here, but if I click and we wait 5 seconds, save change. If I click 2, 3, click 2, 3, click 2, 3, 4, 5. I was a bit fast, but we've added a bunch of things, and I can undo, and it should save changes. But if I go all the way back to the beginning, actually that should save changes. Yeah, so we don't want to be particularly clever here, we just want these to be true. Because if you're undoing, you're going to have something that you can undo. If you redo, you're going to have something that you can redo, and if you can close, you're going to have something. So we don't really need that. The whether you can undo is only relevant to showing the user whether there are changes, but for an app like this we don't show that because the user is not saving. So okay, that will save. So now let's actually save. We are going to let writer equals model writer. I thought, oh no, model writer is the one that's static, so we can do catch print error while saving, and we'll print out the error. But then we can do try model writer dot write self to self dot URL pending path component library dot plist. Okay, so if I go to we have here Streamline. if I build and run, there's nothing currently there, but if I had a playlist, we're going to wait a bit, and there was an error. Drop list invalid for format 100. This can not contain objects of type CF type. Let's try that. There we go. Library.plist. Now we can see our players' tracks are empty, but our playlists aren't. And our tracks have stuff in. So we need to fill up the rest of this. So the first thing we want to do on the track is we need the source. Now for the source, for list representation, so for none, we're just going to return type is none. Type is file, and URL is URL.absolute string. I'm going to do init with plist representation. Well, we're going to take our plist and we're going to pass this in. So godlet type equals plist representation type else self equals none. 10. And I'm going to switch on type for case file. And that, and then the default is self equals none. Godlet URL equals plist representation URL. else, self equals none. Otherwise, self equals file. Well, this will be URL string. That's string URL equals URL with the string. Okay, so we have init with plist representation. So the source here is going to be source plist representation source. Self.source equals source. So let's see if that works. Go up here. Let it save. Oh yeah, they don't have. What I need to do is, let's drag this over. There. Get rid of all of these. Then it should hopefully save in a second. It has. Go on track 2. Bar track 3. Source type none, type none, type none, type none, type none. Why? Because we're not setting it here. Okay, so at least we're saving it. So, next thing we need to do is I need to look at how right, so for saving data, we need to go to playlist track. So what playlist track needs to do is we want our playlist keys. Get other properties. Now our playlist keys are our ID, our sort index, our playlist, and our track. So the ID is fine, the track, and no, sort index. The playlist, if let playlist equals soft playlist. So this is how we actually get these sorting. That is going to equal raw value self. It's going to equal playlist id dot string representation. I'm going to do the same again for the track. And updating from the playlist representation. What do we want to do here? So we want to make sure that our ID is correct. We want to do the other properties, but then what we need to do is get the values and then set the values. So now we're gonna ignore the reason we're using try question mark is that we just want a if it doesn't exist we just want nil back. So because the way I've done it here in Coppice is that I've written a separate thing here, but I realise that I can just reuse this bit up here. All I need to do is ignore this. Like if it's nil, then yes, attribute's not found, but we don't care that attribute's not found because it's optional. It's entirely possible for it not to be found, and it should still work exactly the same way. So we're going to do track is that we're going to do track ID, which is going to be string, and let playlist ID, which is going to be string. Try soft attribute. Okay, playlist. Now when we set the values, we can do self dot sort index equals sort index. It should be optional. So if the track ID exists, and let model ID equals model ID from the string representation. Then what I have done here in Coppice is I go to the model controller, get the collection, and then get the object with ID. But there is another way of doing this, and the reason is these are at model object references, which means that we don't actually store the object, because the object itself may go away. If you undo, redo, whatever, the object can be recreated and you can have a different object, but it has the same model ID. So what we do with these is we store the model ID. So when you set the wrapped value, all we're doing is setting the model ID. So what we should be able to do is if we make that public, we can do self.$track, getting the actual model object, dot model ID equals model ID. And then we just do the same for the playlist. Alright, so I build and run this. We add, and we get that. So that has updated, so if we show it again. There we are. We have our playlist tracks, and we've got our ID for the playlist, sort index, and the track. And if we look through, there should be 4, which there are, because one of them is going to be foo, and then the others are going to be track 1, track 2, and track 3. So if we were to go and, for example, add, didn't mean to do that, that started playing. Drag this to playlist 1, and then we wait a bit. To update. That is updated. And there we are. It has been added. So now we want to test that this all gets read in. So actually we want to write out the streams as well. The scenes we don't care about as much because we don't have any, but the streams we do. So, if I do playlist, let's just copy paste that for now. Actually, we need the sort index as well. Case sort index. Int. Sort index. Sort index equals sort index. Okay, so that should be good, and we should be able to copy paste this into here. And at the moment, we've got our name, we've got a sort index and other properties, which we won't need. The scenes, we will be storing the inverse because we always store the ID for the object. The other one, like when you get a collection, it is always dynamically generated. So that's all done. So if we build and run, okay, so that should be written, and it is. We have playlist scenes, but we have our streams in. And if I was to rearrange, so stream 3 is at the top, then we go down to streams. Stream 3 is at index 0. Okay, so what we are going to do now is we're going to quit. And in fact, what we're going to do is terminate self dot window controller dot view model dot model controller dot perform save. And perform save, we want to self dot save equals false. Okay, so this will always force a save before we terminate. But what we want to do when we load up is, at the moment we're doing all this stuff here. Instead, what we want to do, let reader equals model reader of self reader dot read from the URL, and the URL is URL appending path component library dot plist. And hopefully it should read in what we had before. Interesting. Why? Let's try to change the object. How have multiple keys been found? Huh. Oh, I have the type violates hashables requirements. Oh, that mode is such a dictionary mutated insertion. Track not hashable. Surely it has to be, because all we're doing is inserting. Yeah. So it's based on the ID. I genuinely do not know what is going wrong here. We're going through creating option. On this new object, the ID. So the ID is set. We've got a change group. And we want to get the change for the object. Okay. So we call to change for object. So to get here, there can't be a change for that object. So we create change, we create that. But it's claiming duplicate keys. This be hashable. Is this all because I haven't made them NS objects? I just create that and then object. So you're not going to be broadcast execution, you're probably going to do the same hash rate. Yeah. Hashes the essential components of this value by feeding them into the given hash rate and implement this method to conform to the hashable protocol. Ones used must be the same as the components compared in your types equals operator. Let's see what a DuckDuckGo search shows up, because that makes no sense. Yes, the object can change, but that shouldn't affect things because the object is not used in equality or hashing, only the ID, and the ID changes before we ever get to this point. Let's go to track. I'm gonna undo this. And then what we're going to do is go into model reader and go here. So the type is track, and we're going to do PO plist data keys. So I'm going to go here. Our UUID is that, so we're going to jump into here, push change group, go down, and then our new object .id is set to that. So we want to notify of change, we're going to register change, and then we want change for object. So we're going to go in here, register change, get change for object, go here, so how does it already have the crap? Okay. So go through one time, that fits. So on the third one, causing an issue, so let's try that again. So we build and run and we go through. We create, we go through. No, we fail. Then we insert, we go through, change object. So why do they have different hash values? Oh, if I do model ID, have a model type of track dot and a UUID of this. Fine, tracking scope. We'll just do model type or value track. Oh, because I can't. Right. Because they're different. Right, I understand now. Okay, so why is self dot changes dot keys dot first dot id dot hash value? So that's the hash value there. That's the hash value there. So if I do object.hash value, .id.hash value, they're all the same. Alright, let's go through here. I want to get to the point where we're in here, and I want to do object.hash value is that object.id is that hash value is that. I go to that and I select this. Hash value is that. So we're all good. And then go here, and then I want to do object.id. Right. So the question is, why on earth does that work in Coppice? Am I model collection? Am I doing it differently in Coppice? I am not. Okay. Well, the amount of sense this is all making is a big fat 0. Because this is the same code as in Coppice. It's running through effectively the same way, it's just ns object. So I think what I need to do is shove that down that and get rid of that. Because if I do this now and I get rid of all that, it should just work. And it does. And it loads everything up and everything's in the order. So that's all we ended up needing to do. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a short break because we've been going for 2.5 hours now and I haven't taken a break yet. So I am going to take a quick break, get a fresh cup of tea, and when I get back, we'll make sure that we can drag files over, and once that's done, persistence is sort of done. So then we can start looking into playback and see how far we can get with that before my brain gives up on programming altogether, and at which point we'll go into Blender and Unity. So I will see you all in a few minutes.
I won't grow old with grace. I need some breathing space. I can't keep living straight. Oh, we ain't gonna linger and lie low when there's hard cash coming back. No way, I'll just sit here when I know that there's hard cash coming back. Hard cash. We ain't gonna linger and lie low when there's hard cash coming back. We ain't gonna linger and lie low when there's hard cash coming back. No way, I'll just sit here when I know that there's hard cash coming back. Hard cash. Don't want no easy money. Oh no. And now that we have all arrived, my friends, get in your cars and drive. And now that we have all arrived, my friends, get in your cars and drive. Gonna drive our blues away. Just another sunny day. Gonna drive our blues away. Just another sunny day.
Okay, I am back with fresh drinks and I am just committing all the changes that we have created. Add basic persistence to Streamline. So, actually, I have realised there is one bit that we do need to now fix, which is here. We want to copy file. So if I build and run this now, all the times that we've been copying files in, we haven't actually been copying files in. So what I'm going to do now is if I go over here and I select a bunch of files, and I drag them onto tracks, and not only does it copy them in, not only do we get the tracks here where it's actually saving all the URLs and everything, but these are all actually copied in. So, oh, that's a fair point. It helps if I actually show what I'm meaning. So all of these are now actually copied in to our folder, as well as appearing here. So what I'm going to do is if I quit and relaunch, all of our data is still there, which is fantastic. Now I'm just going to hide a bunch of these because I don't currently care about tags. Get rid of date added. Get rid of genre because that's not doing anything at the moment. Let's get rid of year as well. Okay, so we want to actually get some playback working. So I'm going to select all the ones that actually have audio in and put them into playlist 2. I'm going to rename playlist 2 to actual and shift this to the top. Okay, so we want this now to be when I double click, it will start playing, and to have some content at the top for playback. So what we are going to want to do for our playback controls is this is going to end up being a fixed toolbar. So what do we want to do here? We want to get our main window. I want to hide the title text, I believe. So if we build and run this now, hopefully the title text does not appear. It does not. Fantastic. So we want to add some more items in here. Toggle save our new place. So we've got all these things here. What we want to do is we need a group. I'm pretty sure there is toolbar item group. There we are. Okay, so we want lazy var playback controls going to be an ns toolbar item. This is going to be a lazy var play pause item. Previous track item. So that item equals ns toolbar item, and actually we need stuff up here. actually we need this to be a button because it's going to toggle. Unless, do you have item? No, so we're going to need a button. So if I have a look in Coppice, toolbar delegate is what I need, what I want and what I need. There we are. So, item dot. I won't put a label. Button equals ns button image system symbol name. So this is where we want some SF symbols because we're just gonna, for now, just use SF symbols as is. Media play.fill. Play. Target is going to be nil. Action is going to be nil for now. We will force unwrap that because if it doesn't exist, then something has gone wrong. Right, so button dot alternate image is going to be ns image system symbol name pause.fill. Pause. Button dot set button type dot toggle. And I believe we want the bezel style to be textured rounded because I believe that gives us the correct sizing and such in Rain's Gone Dead in the toolbar. So we'll do that and then we'll do item.view equals button. Return item. These are going to be simpler because we can just use a regular toolbar item because there's going to be nothing too problematic here. So item.image equals and it be forward.fill. Oh no, we want backwards. Yes. Back. Down button. Button. Back. And then we can do the same for the next track. And then we get our group. So let group equals ns toolbar item group with item identifier playback group. And group dot sub items equals previous track item, play pause item, next track item. Dot selection mode equals commentary. Okay, so we want to, we've got toggle sidebar tracking separator. Let's throw in our playback group. Let's see what this looks like. There we go. Now the sizing's a bit off, but we can fix that later. Right. So the next thing that we want are volume controls. So what I believe we should do plus in the split view. Let's create a view. So I'm going to create a view, and this is going to be volume. So want to import AppKit because we're doing class volume control NS view. We could do an NS control, but do we want to do an NS control? We may do, but for now we're not going to bother. Private var mute button is going to be in this button. And you should probably be lazy. So we have mute button, we have full volume button. And then we want the volume slider. Oh, we're going to have our button. And this button with image. Okay, so we have media, but media does not include volume. That makes complete and utter sense. Let me under devices then. All microphones are under, so video is on. Right, so we want speaker.fill and then speaker wave 3.fill. So this is Coppice.fill. Be mute. That's going to be self. We're going to do nil for now. Just return. this one is speaker wave 3. Go. And then our slider is a nice slider. Value, let's set it to 0.5, min value 0, max value 1, target self selector is currently nil. We're just going to return the slider for now. And our stack view is going to be self.mute, self.volume slider, self.full. Stack view is its orientation equals dot horizontal, the stack view dot spacing alignment equals center Y, stack view dot, the property is distribution. Equal spacing, return a stack view. So we have all that stuff in there. So if I go into our toolbar delegate, lazy var volume item is going to be in there, toolbar item. We want static let volume equals okay, so I've got the volume item. To add that, and then here we want a flexible space with volume, and down here get a volume. We want to return that's our volume item. Okay. Well, that will do for... no, it won't do it for now. U dot width anchor dot constraint equal to constant. Let's set it to 150. Active equals true. Okay, we want our buttons not to be bordered. That's looking a bit more like it. Right. So we've got our playback controls in. I'm gonna complete that because we have our playback controls in, so I'm going to commit. Streamline, yep. Okay. So what do we have next? Actually playing back audio. I think what we're not going to actually get audio playing, but what I want to do is get the outline of a playback controller written, because then we can work out what we need for that playback controller, at least for the more basic cases. So I think I'm going to do that and then take another just very short break, and then we'll switch over to Blender and do some 3D modeling. So for playback controller, what we want is a new group, playback. In playback, we're going to have playback controller. So what do we need the playback controller to do? Well, something fairly simple is we want var is playing. Want to play out pause, applause, pause. Let's go to the next track. We want to go to the previous track. We'll have the volume, which is going to be a double between 0 and 1. So we've got all the basic stuff there, but what we also need is to be able to provide it with basically what it should be playing. So we've got basic playback controls. We're gonna have volume, but then we're going to have play cue. And what we're going to want to do is the play cue is going to be what is going to be up next. So for play cue, we can do function add tracks remove tracks. Let's queue with tracks. Place operation. And the case is going to be skip case cross fade time interval case and wait for current track. You also need playback info. So we need current track. Time is going to be in a time interval. Duration is going to be a time interval. For we've got time, we've got duration. Time. Well, time remaining is duration minus time, so we don't need that. I think that's all we really need. Now what we may end up doing is the playback track may end up going into its own class and the queue may end up being its own class, which are both actually on the playback controller. But essentially we also need to work out shuffling. But I think shuffling should happen before it gets to the queue. So you'll be able to add tracks to the end of the queue, remove tracks from the queue, move tracks before right. Now we may end up with actually a playback track, because a track can appear multiple times. So yeah, we're probably going to want a playback track. So if we do extension.playback controller class playback track, it's going to have a track, it's going to to have its time interval. It's going to have its duration. So you're going to be able to add tracks and it will create them to playback tracks, but if you want to remove something, you've got to remove a specific playback track. If you want to move stuff, then you need playback tracks. If you're, where are we? If you're placing a queue, you want tracks because you're basically taking cues. And the difference between adding cues, this will just append to the end. So if you wanted to, like you're already playing a playlist and you want to add a playlist to the current queue, you can do. But if you want to replace the current queue with these, you can, for example, if you want to just start playing a new playlist, if you double click on the playlist, rather than adding, we'll do a replace queue with skip. If you're switching between scenes, then it may be skip, or it may be crossfade, or it may be wait for the current track to finish. So this will actually add the stuff on and then determine, okay, if it's skip, then we can just stop playing, replace all the things, and the new current item is the first item in here. For a crossfade, we've got the current thing, and then we'll just do a crossfade between them. Wait for current track is basically we leave the current track on, but we remove everything else and stick that on. So really the crossfade's the hardest one, because it's not a simple throw everything away, throw everything bar the current track away. So I think that is mostly what we want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back we will be in Blender and do some more stream design, because I would like to really push on this stream overlay. I think if I can get the basics done today on the overlay, in terms of the model, just get the fundamental model done, and then start seeing if we can get it into Unity, and seeing if we can get a character controller set up, and some cameras set up, just to see if I can get a character moving around. So I will be back in a few minutes, and we'll start on that. Okay, I am back. So let us get into some Blender. So let's just delete. Delete that and delete that. Delete that. Let's get rid of the reference. What do we do? Get rid of the reference. Right, so here we have screen, and we have screen border. So the only things left to add are a control panel around here and a hollow table. So the hollow table, we will do that first because that should be the easiest. At least if I find where I've put my sketches. Okay, we just had. Well, we can hide this. We want new collection, which is going to be bridge. And if I create as a cube, probably scale it down a bit. I'll keep it 3x2. Actually, no, because I want the screen. We do. So if we make it do 1 by 0.5, but no, I want 2 by 1. Let's do it 3x2 for now because I can scale it. So I want to scale this down on the X, move it up on the X. Right. So I need Pilkybot. So I need it's down. Hey Snowtwig, streamlining, well, it's gone pretty well. I've got persistence working, I've got playback controls in. In fact, let's just bring up Streamline so I can show you what I have, like where I have got to. So it's persisting everything to disk, so all these are now loaded up, and if I, for example, move actual music down to the bottom and then quit and then run the app again, actual music is down at the bottom. I've also added some playback controls at the top, so we've got play pause. They're a bit just thrown together at the moment. I will be fixing those later. I want to get the functionality in. We've also got a slider up here which will go, and you've got mute and full volume buttons, so you can swap there. So we have the controls in, and I've placed in the basics for a playback controller. So you'll have all your basic play, pause, next track, previous track, information on the track, which I've just realised that needs to be a playback track. We don't need those. But then adding stuff to the queue, so you'll be able to add tracks to the queue, remove playback tracks, move tracks around, or even just replace queues. So for example, when you double click on the playlist to start a playlist playing, we want to replace the entire queue and skip. So, and these other ones are for when you switch in between scenes. So we've got all that in, and that is essentially the stubs ready for me to start going in and building all this stuff up. So that is what I'm probably going to do either over the weekend or on Monday. But for now, we're working on some Blender. Now, I want to... yeah, the size is not quite what I want, but it will do for now, because what I want to do from here is select this face, and I'm going to shift up to there, and I'm going to scale it out, and then I'm going to go up a bit. So this is our basic hollow table shape. Now, one thing that I want to do is add a modifier or a bevel. Now, what I want is... to do it by I think I'm going to want to do this by vertex group, because what I'm wanting is effectively, I don't want a bevel on top, I want this corner to sort of go across at a 45 degree. Actually, that's probably going to be easier just doing by hand. So if I undo, bring that to there, and what I'm going to do is I basically want to slice across there at a diagonal. So what I should be able to do, not edge slide, I want a loop cut. I want a loop, that's not what I want. And nice. So let's hide. The deck. So what I think I will do is these walls as well. Yeah, because these aren't going from further back. So I'll select that. And what I'm going to want to do, if I there, so this wants to be 0.5. That is let's just put that to 6. Okay. So what I want to do is on this is I want to, in the X direction, going to be 0.5. I understand why they do scale and stuff to like as a basically a percentage, but at the same time I wish they didn't. I wish you could just have it where it's always no matter what you're doing, you can just specify, oh, I want it to increase by X meters, or whatever your units are. It would save a lot of this finicky stuff. Okay. So now that is stuck out, what I could do with doing is it's roughly out there. That is pretty much a 45-degree angle. We can tweak it just a bit, and that is now a 45-degree angle. Perfect. And then what we're going to do is, because I do not know much better, let us subdivide and do one second, I have got a phone call. Okay, so unfortunately, I just had a bit of an emergency phone call, so I need to pop out. So, I'm going to end the stream, pop out. Hopefully this will only take about 30 minutes or so. But I will probably be back 30 minutes to an hour, hopefully, and pick the stream up again and continue with this. But unfortunately, family emergency, someone's lost a phone. So, I will be back later, but until then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and hopefully you're still around to join me back when I get back. So, see you hopefully later today.